In this part, let's take a look at the first real alternative to table, which is a simple addition to table by just shading the cells of the table using a highlight color. What are the benefits and how to produce this in Tableau? So here I am with the same report, which is salary breakup by gender and quarter. So this has a lot of values. As you can see in the bottom, it has about 31 values, right? One value is missing, so out of the 32. So there are a lot of values here. So if I want to understand where the biggest values are, where the smallest values are, the only way to do this in a table structure is to go sequentially one by one, right? So this is the difficulty with respect to tables. You have to get into what I would call a left brain process, one by one sequentially, as opposed to the charts, which is more like a right brain process where we take in a whole lot of things at one go. That's why there is this famous saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So the equivalent for picture in our world is charts, and the words is this table. So there is a lot of 32 words or 31 words here, and to try to understand which is bigger, which is smaller takes a lot of effort. So, but then there are a number of situations where people want tables, and how do we still give them tables but add a little bit of Tableau flavor to that? So one of the things, the first alternative is what's called a highlight table. What we are doing is just adding a simple color shading of each of the cells we take and then shade them. So as you can see here, this is what I have done here. So the brightest color is telling you where the high values are. The lightest color tells you where the smallest values are. And then the brightest colors, they jump at you visually. You can see if you put them side by side, you can see how things are looking. Yeah. So this is much easier to see now. Just taking a quick look at the report, my eyes are drawn towards this 331,000, 296,000 very quickly in the right side of the report as opposed to this left side, right? So that's the single benefit of highlight table. When you do have to present a table and when you do have to convey a lot of information, how do you highlight some information? It can be the biggest values, smallest values, whatever, right? And you have an option to play with the colors here. Tableau chose this kind of a color, but since it's a number measure, you have a lot of diverging palettes which are available. So if you are displaying something which has a positive to negative value like a brown, it's a profit, you could go from, for example, orange to blue or the familiar red to green, whichever suits you. There's no constraint on that. So now let's take some data from the superstore, which is even more complex. So here I am putting category by subcategory over all the 4 years of data. That gives rise to 68 marks or 68 words, really, right? And then how can we convey this 68 words? Which subcategory has the highest sales, and which in which year it occurred? Is it consistent, and all of that information, right? So here is the alternative. If we put them side by side here, we can very quickly see the technology section has a lot more shades. And the middle section, though it has a lot of subcategories, the office supplies has a few really darker colors that indicates most of the sales are small. So, and then we are also drawn towards the top section, chairs, right? So things are actually much easier to interpret when it comes to using highlight table. So this is what I would recommend if you have to present a table, and then see whether you can add this addition. One caveat though, many a times when people want table, they want it printed. If you are going to print, then this highlight table may not look actually look very nice. So experiment with the color palette and then see whether, if you are printing in color, perfectly fine. This would just make sure it is actually looking readable once it is printed. If you're going to use grayscale, just figure out whether it works perfectly before you put a table structure. So now that we have seen what the benefit of this is, now let's see how to create this. If I assume, for example, I start off with my original report, this report, right? Let me just make a duplicate of this. So here is the report that I start off with. So how do I convert this into a table? So highlight table. So the number of ways. The simplest way is to actually use this show me. For now, let me do this and then show you what could be the advantages and disadvantages. So I'm just going to press on show me. Look at what show me is doing. So show me change the orientation of my table, right? So previously I had year and quarter running across down the rows, whereas now it has changed into running across columns. And the reason is understandable. As I've explained in a number of videos, we are used to seeing time on a horizontal axis, which is on columns. So whenever you invoke show me, you get the whole package. Yeah, it does not consider your layout, it does not give it that much weight that you have put effort to put something. All it is doing is, oh, here is a new person, so he doesn't know what's the best representation, let me help him with that. So that's what it does. Sometimes this may not be what you want, but if you take a simpler table like this, which does not have a time dimension, then you invoke show me, it does the job faithfully. It doesn't really fiddle with it. So you just need to understand. So even when show me does this, the really changing this is not big deal. Just a quick swap rows and axis will give us whatever we are looking at this, right? So this is what show me does. So if you see what the differences are, right? So now first we can see the marks. This is square, right? So the mark type is specifically changed. This is not automatic. And then we see the sum of salary number on color as well as on text. Let's duplicate and start from here and then do it without show me. So the first thing, so I mean, one option is you can look at what show me has done and replicate by just dragging and dropping. But that is not the approach I would recommend. When it comes to Tableau, always experiment a little bit. See what Tableau is doing. That way we can learn. So now, I mean, we know that we want to add this number on color, right? So the default thing that we should do is take this thing and drop it on color, and let's see what Tableau does. Does it do what it so this is what Tableau is doing. So I dragged and dropped this on color, and then Tableau converted the mark type to square automatically, right? Maybe it understands that I already have a table, and then the best way is to just convert this. But then it does not display the values, right? And let me check whether the labels are on. So it says actually labels are not on. So I can click here, or as we already know, we can click here, right? So in just 2 steps, we were able to get to the highlight table, and this is even better than show me. Show me fixed it to a square mark type, right? So whereas with what we have done, it does not fix it. It is going into automatic mode. So this is preferable for us, because later on if we change the representation, this will automatically update. So this is one way, right? So other ways, let's go back to the original table, and then what other things we can do. So first I said let's drag it on color. What if I duplicate it on color? What happens? So I am going to press Control or Command and then duplicate it, drop it on here. In this case, the text is colored rather than the background. So now you have 2 possibilities depending on what you want to do. So you could color this way. In some cases this is nice, in some cases it may not be. Or you have the other case where we just want to basically get rid of this and then put here and then turn on the table where we get a highlight table. Yeah. So those are the 2 ways to get to highlight table in Tableau. In the next video, let's look at another alternative to this called heat map, and then there we will compare table versus highlight table versus heat map.